Introduction to the Theory of Evolution by Charles Darwin. So, in this particular subject, here goes about that religion versus science. Before the Victorian period, most people accepted the Bible and the ultimate truth. However, scientific discoveries question and religious decision. So, Bible, the Victorian period, before the Victorian period, most people accepted Bible is the ultimate truth. সকলো মানুহে ভাবিছিল যে বাইবেলটোৱে সকলোবিলাক সঁচা বুলি ভাবিছিল। অ'কে, তাৰপিছত চাইণ্টিফিক ডিস্কভাৰীৰ পৰা তেওঁলোকে কুৱেশ্যন আৰম্ভ কৰিব ধৰিলে বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণে। অ'কে, চ' চায়েন্স ডিড নট চিম্পলি অপ'জ ৰিলিজন, ইট ফ'ৰ্চ পিপল টু rethink old beliefs. This created intellectual uncertainty and doubt. Darwin's theory of evolution. Darwin argued that the species evolved through the natural selection rather than being created in pigs from by God. Analysis. Darwin's theory was revolutionary because it removed humanity from its privileged position in the biblical creation story. Humans becomes part of the natural evolutionary process. So critical view, Darwin did not deny God's existence, but his theory weakened the authority of religious exploration. Okay, so Darwin argues about that species evolved through natural selection rather than created a fixed from God. Darwin's theory was revolutionary because it removed humanity from privileged position in biblical creation story. Humans became part of the natural evolutionary process. Rise rationalism. Victorian increasingly relied on reason and observation and evidence. So তেতিয়া মানে সেইবিলাক ইনক্ৰিজ হৈ যায় কাৰণবিলাক কেনেধৰণে কি হৈছে সেইবিলাক চোৱা চিন্তা কৰা Rationalism encouraged critical thinking and scientific inquiry. People began questioning traditions that had been accepted for centuries. Critical point, while rationalism promoted progress, it also created spiritual emptiness for many peoples. Impact on literature. Victorian writers reflected the tension between faith and doubt. Example, the Maternal the Verbis expresses the decline of religious faith. Alfred Lutheranism in Memoriam says, and suggests to reconcile science and religion. And Victorian literature became a mirror of the social and intellectual uncertainty. So the feminist perspective, Victorian society restricted women through rigid moral codes. Analyzes the crisis of the traditional values also encouraged women to question patriarchal authority. The Victorian period indirectly prepared the ground for modern feminism. So the exam-oriented critical conclusion. The Victorian crisis of faith was not merely a religious problem. It was an intellectual and cultural transformation, scientific discoveries, rational inquiry, and social changes. Challenged traditional beliefs and created a new way of understanding human existence. Victorian literature records the struggle between faith and doubt, tradition and progress, religion and science. Okay, so the Victorian crisis, faith emerged from the conflict between Christianity and the scientific rationalism. Okay, so leading in the skepticism, self-questioning and the rise of modern intellectual thought. Keywords: crisis of faith, Darwinism, evolution, rationalism, skepticism, religious versus science, doubt, modernity, humanism and the Victorian literature. So সেইটোৱে আছিলে